In the profound wisdom of our Nigerian forebears, he who brings kola brings life, a proverb that highlights how small gestures can foster harmony and trust in a community. Yet when those in power withhold transparency, it sows discord and erodes the very bonds that hold society together. This adage rings true amid growing unrest in Nigeria, where citizens are taking to the streets to protest the Senate's recent rejection of key amendments to the Electoral Act, a move many see as a calculated effort by the APC-led government under President Bola Tinubu to tilt the playing field in their favor ahead of the 2027 general elections. These changes, or rather the lack thereof, have sparked fears that the electoral process could remain vulnerable to manipulation, frustrating opposition figures like Peter Obi and parties such as the African Democratic Congress, who have been vocal advocates for reforms to ensure fairer polls. This na confirmed street news. Na waiting we hear with a report, but be sure say na confirm. Abeg, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment to help us grow and bring you undiluted news. What precisely has ignited this wave of demonstrations? On February 4, 2026, the Senate debated and ultimately rejected proposals to make the real-time electronic transmission of election results mandatory, opting instead to retain provisions for manual collation under the Independent National Electoral Commission's discretion. This decision came during the passage of a revised Electoral Act, where lawmakers turned down amendments that would have required results to be uploaded directly from polling units to INEC's result viewing portal, a system known as IREV. Critics argue this preserves the ambiguities that plagued the 2023 elections, where technical glitches and delays in uploads led to widespread allegations of irregularities. Protests erupted shortly after, with groups like the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room and the Obedient movement organizing rallies at the National Assembly complex in Abuja. Demonstrators, including youth, women's groups, and civil society organizations supported by entities like Action Aid Nigeria, carried placards demanding urgent passage of stronger electoral reforms. They vowed to shut down the National Assembly if the Senate continued to block real-time transmission, emphasizing that such measures are essential for transparent elections in 2027. The Senate's handling of the bill included tensions over the composition of a harmonization committee, prompting Senate President Godswill Akpabio to revise the membership and appoint Senator Adeniyi Adegbomire as chairman, but this did little to quell the outrage. If you're as concerned about the health of our democracy as these developments suggest, and want to dive deeper into stories that unpack the forces shaping Nigeria's future, go ahead and like this video. Leave a comment sharing how you think these changes could affect the next elections, and subscribe to the channel. Staying engaged is how we all contribute to informed public discourse. To fully appreciate the stakes here, it's helpful to recall the context of Nigeria's electoral evolution. The Electoral Act of 2022 introduced electronic transmission as an option, hailed at the time as a step toward modernization after years of paper-based systems prone to tampering. However, the 2023 general elections exposed flaws. INEC's failure to upload results in real time to IREV triggered public fury, opposition challenges, and lengthy court battles, with many Nigerians questioning the integrity of the outcomes that saw President Tinubu's APC retain power. Opposition leaders including Peter Obi of the Labour Party, who garnered significant support in 2023, and the African Democratic Congress have long pushed for mandatory electronic measures to prevent such issues, arguing that they level the playing field against incumbents. The current push for amendments in 2025 and 2026 stems from post-2023 reviews, where civil society and observers like Yiaga Africa highlighted how discretionary powers allowed for opacity. With the 2027 polls looming just over a year away, the Senate's rejection is viewed by many as a strategic maneuver by the ruling APC to maintain control over the process, potentially disadvantaging challengers by keeping manual elements that could enable disputes or alterations. This fits into a broader pattern of legislative delays. The National Assembly's extended recess in late 2025 already postponed action, raising alarms that time is running out for meaningful reforms before the next cycle. The major actors have been forthright in their positions. Opposition figures like Peter Obi have publicly condemned the Senate's decision, describing it as a deliberate assault on democracy designed to facilitate manipulation in 2027, and urging Nigerians to resist any undermining of their rights. Yunusa Tanko, national coordinator of the Obidient movement, a grassroots network tied to Obi's 2023 campaign, issued statements labeling the retention of manual collation as an institutionalization of opacity, calling for immediate reversal. On the civil society front, groups like the Situation Room have criticized the Senate's inertia, staging peaceful actions to press for amendments that address weaknesses like unclear transmission rules. From the government side, Senate leaders have defended the bill's passage without the mandatory clause, arguing it preserves INEC's flexibility in areas with poor infrastructure, though this has been met with skepticism. President Tinubu's administration, through APC-aligned senators, has emphasized that the revised act still advances electoral integrity, but detractors see it as an effort to frustrate opposition momentum, particularly for figures like Obi and parties like the ADC, which have allied in calls for transparency to build on their growing influence. The implications of this standoff are profound across political, social, and economic lines. Politically, it risks deepening polarization, with the APC potentially consolidating power through a system perceived as biased, while frustrating emerging opposition coalitions that include Peter Obi and the ADC, who might struggle to mobilize voters amid doubts about fairness. Socially, eroded trust in institutions could lead to widespread apathy or heightened protests, as seen in the current rallies, potentially escalating into broader unrest if 2027 repeats 2023's controversies. Economically, electoral instability deters foreign investment and disrupts business confidence, especially in a nation already facing inflation and unemployment. Prolonged disputes post-election could stall governance and recovery efforts. From a security standpoint, unresolved grievances over rigging allegations might fuel regional tensions or violence, as historical polls have sometimes done, undermining national stability. Public reactions have been overwhelmingly critical, with outrage dominating social media and public discourse. Many Nigerians, particularly youth and urban voters who supported Obi in 2023, view the Senate's move as evidence of the Tinubu-led government's intent to rig the 2027 elections, with comments like, "APC is afraid of real transparency," echoing online. Opposition parties have warned that without reforms, the polls could become a selection, not an election, as articulated by analysts like Maxwell Opara. Civil society leaders, including Aisha Yesufu, have joined protests, amplifying calls for accountability. On the other hand, some APC supporters argue the rejection protects against over-reliance on technology in rural areas with connectivity issues, framing it as practical rather than manipulative. Legal experts have noted the decision's potential to trigger more post-election litigation, similar to 2023. Moving forward, the trajectory could involve intensified advocacy and possible revisions. If protests gain momentum, the Senate might revisit the amendments under pressure, especially with the House of Representatives potentially aligning on stronger reforms during harmonization. Opposition groups like the Obidient movement plan further marches on the National Assembly, which could force concessions or highlight the issue internationally. For the APC and President Tinubu, maintaining the status quo might secure short-term advantages but risks backlash in 2027, where voter turnout could surge against perceived unfairness. Peter Obi and the ADC may capitalize on this, rallying supporters around reform platforms to challenge the ruling party. Ultimately, with elections approaching, INEC's preparations will be scrutinized. Without mandatory electronic transmission, controversies seem inevitable, but sustained public demand could still push for last-minute changes to safeguard democracy. As we wrap this examination of a pivotal moment in Nigeria's political landscape, share your perspective in the comments. Do you believe these protests will lead to real change before 2027? If this story has you thinking about the future of our elections, like the video, subscribe for more investigative narratives, and hit notifications to stay updated. Your voice matters in these crucial conversations.